Hi, this is Tom with Plan for You Tomorrow. Welcome to our introductory video of the client portal of our PFYT Planner Interactive Financial Planning Suite. We really are quite proud of the PFYT Planner, and we feel really good about the direction that we're heading with financial planning, where we're trying to move from sort of the typical planning situation where the data is provided to us in a fact finder. We run a plan and give it to our clients, and then we come back and revisit it in a year or two. We think the interactive portal makes it far easier for everyone to keep the planning fresh and to keep it present and to keep making adjustments to it in virtually real time. So we're very happy with the direction that our financial planning practice is heading with the introduction of the PFYT Planner. Also, first thing that I need to say is you should bear in mind that what you're seeing here is simply the client portal portion of it, and that what underlies the portal and what is on the back end on our side of it is far more detailed and far more robust even than what you see here. So we can get very, very granular with inputting financial planning data and making adjustments to financial planning and estate planning data in this tool. But we also give you what we think is an unprecedented access to the planning reports as they change over time. So in order to get to it, you'll start by going to our website, www.planforyourtomorrow.com, and as you watch the video, we hope you like what you see. So if you were just to go up to this access menu, which appears on most of our web pages, you will see that there's a link for PFYT Planner along with links to other resources that we have that apply to different folks. So by selecting PFYT Planner, it will bring you to the login page. So we're going to log into a sample client that I created, and see if I can remember his login information. Okay, so because I've logged in, it's going to ask me for the answer to a secret question. The first time you log in, it's going to ask you to update your password because we will set the first password to automatically expire. And then you'll be prompted to create 3 secret questions for security purposes. And if you don't want to have to answer the questions every time, you just check "Don't ask me again" from this device. So we don't have access to any of the password or the secret question data. We can reset all of them for you, though, if you ever run into a password problem or if you ever run into a problem with your secret questions. So you'll see that this takes us to a dashboard page with a number of useful modules on it. First off, if you ever need to contact us, it has our contact information right here. And then it has a couple of other useful panels. This is the list of accounts that we have for you. And then all of these are aggregated into a net worth, which you can actually look at in a couple of different ways. Here's the breakdown of assets and liabilities. You see that this tabs back and forth. Changes to the net worth this month and year to date, and a graph, and then sort of an example of your cash on hand and credit card debt, which we thought was kind of a useful item. The panel next to it covers the aggregate of investments. Here's the aggregate of investments and what they've done today, as you can see. And then your top holdings change today. Top investment accounts and their change today. This would normally be a graph over time. This is a sample client, so there's really no history to it. So there's a couple of places where you see that affects what the demo looks like, but imagine that
you actually had history data, it would make more sense. It would look nice. So here's an example of the asset allocation. In this case, I've added a bunch of things that are unclassified, but you can see that this would give you a nice asset allocation. And if we click, say, more, we get a drop-down list of all the holding categories. So a moment to talk about the accounts and how those relate to the data that's here. We have manually entered all of these accounts because this is a sample client, and that's also why you see that spending is not available and budgets are not available, because this is a sample client. And we're actually not getting real spending data for this person because there is no real person to do any real spending. However, if this were a real person, you could say add your bank accounts to it by looking at your cash accounts and saying, okay, well, I seem to have a bank account that hasn't been captured here, and you would simply add it. Now, were this not a sample client, above this link to manually add accounts, where you would add an insurance policy or an investment account or bank account, there would be a place to put in the type of account and the name of the financial institution. Then you would be prompted to put in the web credentials that you use to log into that financial institution to see your account. So if you had, say, a bank account at Chase Bank, you would select Chase Bank from the list. You would start typing JP Morgan Chase, and it would find JP Morgan Chase. And you would select JP Morgan Chase, and then you would use your credentials that you log into the Chase website to access that account and connect it to your PFYT planner. And then all of the data from that account would stay up to date here, and it would roll up to all of these reports. That would also mean that there would be spending data and budget data available at that point, because it would be able to draw down that information from your spending. So to speak briefly about spending data, that's obviously some of the things that you spend money on, and some of the individual transactions in your life are private. So you have to make a decision as to whether you want to share those with us. If we're doing financial planning, sometimes that data is useful. So by default, the default setting will be that I cannot view any spending data, and that we will not have any idea what you spend money on. You will still see it, but it will be shielded from us. We have another version of this that we look at, so we can see some of the data that is in here, but this is something that is very particular. So you would have your spending data invisible by default. You can expand that so we can see the categories of data. You can lump your spending into categories and we can see the category totals, or you can open it up if we need to get really granular on budgeting to show us all the data, including transactions, and that is entirely under your control. And that is accessed by going to Settings and then Privacy. While we're in here, under your settings, another thing that you can affect is ways that you get data, whether you get email alerts or what types of notifications you get on your home page and for how long you'll see them, and then the different things that you might want to be alerted about. And then, of course, in here you can also fix passwords and security questions. So the next tab in the portal is your organizer, which is really like the drill down on all the different data that is below the summary data that you were just looking at. So here you can again add all sorts of different kinds of accounts, your insurance policies, and then they basically break it down to insurance accounts and other accounts here. So it would be insurance policies and then any investment accounts, checking accounts, credit card accounts. And you can see that they're all categorized. So again, if we were to say look at a credit card account, you'll see that it is listed as a credit card, and there are categories of accounts here. Has the different payment details and the different calculation types that go into those payments. So here's an example of accounts. Below that, you can see real properties, real estate, business properties. This is business interests. Here we have added for them a family LLC. I think this is relatively self-explanatory, but we'll just imagine, for the sake of discussion, that here we have their home. So as we make our way through, you'll see here's the information that has been entered relative to the family and extended family. And there's also an opportunity here to add other professionals. Professional contacts would tend to be here. So we would go ahead and add, we'll say Joe Attorney. And we'll say he is an attorney for estate planning, etc. And then we just go ahead and save him, and there he is. So income, expenses, and savings, there's an opportunity. You can manually add your incomes and manually create living expenses, or you can make your living expenses an itemized figure where you create budgets to do a number of things. We'll do a whole other video on this subject, so I'm going to sort of pass on it now. Moving on, the next thing is goals. Here's where we just kind of record your retirement goals based on the information that you have. So you could say you want to retire at age 67 and age 70, and all of the reports will that you can run will kind of run off of that. And here you can put in the different expenses that you foresee. Here's education expenses, other expenses. We put in a wedding for Mary Beth that we're going to contribute $2,000 a year for 10 years, for a total of accruing $20,000 for a wedding. And we might look at that and say, geez, we don't think that that's enough. We're going to upgrade that to $3,000 a year. We just make the edit right here, and all the reports now will immediately reflect that. So this is paying cash for a vacation house in the year, what's this, 2020. So vacation house, $200,000 in 2020. So now if we were to look at spending reports, which we'll come to in a minute, you'll see a big outflow in the year 2020. So at any rate, you can poke around through these things and look at the different retirement goals, the different data that you can put in. For example, this is a goal planner, so Frank can come in and say, I think planning for retirement is no longer really my top priority. At this point, my parents have gotten really sick, and that's really what's on my mind right now. And we will make sure that as we look at those things, we're addressing the concerns that are the most important first. And then, of course, this is an asset allocation questionnaire Frank has filled out, and it kind of shows where they are on the risk spectrum. So all of this information goes into a number of different reports that all are populated and dynamic as time goes on. So by default, it opens up to the balance sheet. So Frank and Joanna can look and see what their balance sheet is any particular day, with their total net worth, the sum of all their liabilities. There's also a whole host of other reports they could look at. For example, in preparation for going in to meet with their estate planning attorney, they might want to take a look at what their estate planning flowchart looks like. So we've made that available to them, and it shows what information is presently in their estate, and if they were to die today, what would happen. So here's money that's not in their estate that passes out of their estate, and here's money that passes through their estate, through their probate estate. And their total transferred to heirs. So if they're curious about what, with all their savings and investments, what that might look like at some future date, such as the date that the first of them is statistically likely to die, they could look at this as of the first death year and see what happens. So as you can see, based on their outflows and their expected spending, their estate is actually likely to shrink between now and the date that the first of them is likely to die. And they could say pick any year in between and see what seems likely based on current estate tax rules and based on some basic projections. Obviously, this isn't predictive. This is just a simple projection mechanism. So another example of those simple projections is to look at the expectations for income taxes. So we might say, want to take a look at what income taxes look like they're going to be next year based on what we know. And here's a good estimating process right here. Kind of look and say, okay, based on the gross income that we expect, does that seem right? That would mean regular federal income tax calculated at about this much. This much in capital gains, assuming no surprises, this much in state income tax, and we look down, we see the total amount of taxes paid and the effective income tax rate, and a chart up here that shows the distribution of those taxes. So you see that at 68.2%, that's not a tax rate, that's the percentage of the overall amount of taxes paid that is attributable to this tax item. So regular income taxes was 68% of taxes. State and local taxes was 12.97% of taxes. So don't confuse those with rates. So as you can see, there are a number of reports available, including a summary of assets, liabilities, expenses, you name it. You can look through this at your convenience. We have a number of other reports that we can provide. These are just the ones that we provide for the purposes of having them at your fingertips. So here's an asset allocation report, current versus the recommended asset allocation for someone with the risk tolerance that the Millers have. And you can make all sorts of different comparisons. With that, I'm going to step back one notch to look at the vault. The vault is temporarily blank because this is a sample client. When you log into the vault, you will have shared folders here that are folders that we have access to and where we can put information for your use. You additionally will have a folder in here that is your private folder, and you can create subfolders of that, which you have access to, but we don't. This is a great place for you to store sensitive information that you can put into a digital format and information that you want to protect. So backup copies of estate planning documents, maybe copies of your video walkthrough of your home if you use the PFYT keeping track camera loan program, for example. So that would all be in here. We'll take a moment to look at the workshop. This is a set of calculators that you can use for answering simple and relatively straightforward financial questions like examining your allocation, taking a look at your retirement savings rate, whether you have the proper amount of insurance. There's a whole list of topics available, and if you click on View All over here, you will see them. So we think this is pretty handy. Feel free to browse through here, and at least some of these things might be interesting conversation points for us to have. So feel free to go through any of these tutorials, and if you have questions, you can certainly feel free to ask us about them. The spending tab here is not available, but this is where you'd be able to look at your spending and create sample budgets and do spending categories. And again, this is information on all your investments. So, for example, we can drill down and look at, we'll say, the joint investment account. Normally, this would have history data, but because this is a sample client, there's really no actual history data. But you can see the holdings, and we can look at any of the holdings and get a Morningstar report on them, which is, sorry, running a little slow because of the length of time that I've been logged in here and because I've got a recorder running. But normally that would come up with a Morningstar report. We can take a look at the accounts asset allocation and drill down into these and take a look at the holdings, and then do some analysis where we look at the value change over time. And then normally we would have transactional data, but in this case, because again, it's a sample client, we don't. And then if you wanted to do individual research, you can click here and you will access the Morningstar database. And for example, if you wanted to look at research on TLT, L2 TLT, again, so it's telling me that I'm not logged in, but I think again that is just because I've been logged in for a while now and because we're running a recorder. So at any rate, that would normally give you access to the Morningstar database of securities and information on economic data, company data, mutual funds. Let's see if it'll give me news stories. See, it is giving me news stories. So at any rate, we thought that was a nice thing to add. Anyway, so I think that is a pretty thorough overview of our new interactive planner. And down here, you'll see a few other things. For example, information on, this is a little tour guide video, a place that you can hook up to our mileage awards tracker, and information on getting this set up on your smartphone. So anyway, I hope that you like it. I appreciate your watching our video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at, again, tom@planforyourtomorrow.com or 614-300-2263. Thanks for watching.